Ken Jennings had just read a question from the mishmash category on the television quiz show Jeopardy! When my wife muttered something I hoped I hadn't heard. "Excuse me?" I asked, looking up from the TV and turning to my wife, whom I had been married to for 25 years. I said that I've been having an affair with Tony Green for the past year. My eyes narrowed in anger, and I continued to stare at her. My brain repeated her words. "What the hell are you talking about? You've been sleeping with Tony Green for a year?" I shouted. She jumped up from the couch, which was only a step away from me. Her eyes filled with tears, and her delicate hands clenched into fists. I didn't know if she was going to cry or attack me. "Don't be so rude." "Yes, Tony and I have been close for the past year," she said in the voice she used when she wanted to be formal. "Rude? Oh yes, I should be rude, bitch. You just told me you cheated on me. Did you expect me to act like an English aristocrat?" "Let's put the kettle on and talk about it," I said in a shrill voice. She rolled her eyes, knowing it would only make me angrier. "If you can't talk to me civilly, then I don't believe we have anything to talk about." She started to get up, but I grabbed her arm and pushed her back into her chair. It was the closest I had ever come to hurting her, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. "You're going to sit there, and we're going to have this conversation, no matter how I have to talk to you. You just destroyed my world, so you can't dictate how I should behave, unless you're ready to find yourself another place to sleep. Now, start saying something coherent, you fickle bitch." She clenched her hands and looked around the room, trying not to look me in the eye. She looked scared. To be honest, I was scared. Scared that I might actually hurt her. I was on the verge of hitting a girl for the first time since kindergarten when I hit Susan Mang for stealing my red crayon from the Crayola box. I've been dating Tony Green for over a year, and we've been close for the last 12 months. "I should have told you because the guilt was killing me," she said quietly, finally looking me in the eyes when she finished what I took to be her confession. Wait. You had to tell me because the guilt was killing you, not the regret of cheating on me? What did I miss, Tracy? I don't regret cheating on you. I regret hiding it from you for so long. I didn't have the courage to tell you, because I'm not going to stop, at least not anytime soon. I stood up and sat down in the lazy boy chair across the room, hoping that the physical distance between us would reduce the likelihood that I would lunge at that stupid bitch. "I love you with all my heart and soul, RJ, but Tony gave me something I didn't realize I needed, and I'm not ready to give that up anytime soon. You didn't do anything wrong. I've just discovered something new, and I want to continue exploring it." I was sure there wasn't enough Alka-Seltzer in the world to cure my sudden nausea. At least, that's how it feels when someone rips your heart out while you're still alive. At least for a few more minutes. But even though my stomach was in terrible shape, my brain suddenly slowed down. I heard the words. I understood the words. But I struggled to comprehend their meaning in real time. "How can you say you love me right after you just admitted you cheated on me and are going to continue?" I asked. "Your cheating is definitely not love." "I didn't tell you for so long because I love you," she interrupted. "I knew it would hurt you terribly, and I didn't want that. I didn't know you were having an affair, so why did you tell me about it a year later? To rub it in my face that you cheated on me, or to brag that you found someone better? Someone more attractive, more suitable." "What the hell, Tracy?" I said. "I felt guilty for cheating on you. I knew I had to tell you so I could feel better." "So you dropped this bomb on me to feel better, even though you're a serial cheater? You can't be serious." "But I am serious. Now that you know, it won't be cheating anymore." Her smile was innocent, like a virgin sitting on a swing in an untouched garden. For some reason, she really believed the nonsense she was trying to feed me. What had happened to the woman I married a quarter of a century ago? A few minutes ago, I would have said she was sitting next to me on the couch, but now I was almost certain she had been replaced by some kind of alien. What I know about your affair doesn't mean you're not cheating on me. I didn't agree to you having a lover. That was your decision. You stepped outside our marriage, broke our vows. That's why you're cheating and, by your own admission, have been acting like a whore for a year, I growled. So you're saying it would have been better if I had kept my secret, that what you didn't know wouldn't have hurt you? Yes. Number. To be honest, if I hadn't known, it wouldn't have hurt me, but that's not the point. You shouldn't have cheated on me, especially if you love me as much as you say you do. You lied to me, at least with your words, and possibly with your actions, and you didn't respect me, on top of breaking our marriage vows. Hearing my words, she lowered her head, at least for a few seconds. But you didn't know about my relationship with Tony because we were very careful not to hurt you and not to let anyone find out. So you wouldn't be ashamed. You never knew, and I never refused you in bed. If anything, I believe our sex life has improved over the last year, partly because I feel much better sexually and full of energy. I understand that our sex life has improved over the last year, but that's probably because of what you've been doing with your lover. Don't you believe it would be better for us if we did it together as husband and wife, rather than you going outside our marriage to recharge your batteries? I made quotation marks with my fingers to emphasize the last phrase. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, is it still disrespectful? I asked. She looked down again, then looked at me. She didn't answer my question. So, we can just keep going like before? She asked quietly. It won't be forever. And we'll be careful. You'll never know. I really loved this woman, but I couldn't live in that situation. I wasn't one of those men who could share his wife, whether he realized it or not. For me, sex with my wife is never just sex. You must be joking, Tracy. It's bad enough that you did this behind my back. I won't let you and Tony Green continue this affair. I'm going to think long and hard about divorcing you for sleeping with him. When I mentioned divorce, she looked shocked at first. Then her expression changed to what I would call a smirk. You're not going to divorce me, RJ. I know you're hurt, but I also know you love me, and you're smart enough to know that if you divorce me, I'll get half our assets and continue sleeping with Tony, and you'll have nothing. Now I was in shock. Considering how much she loved me, she had obviously prepared well. The look on her face when she said it was also telling. A few days later, I spoke to a lawyer who said that Tracy's assessment was correct, but I couldn't look at myself in the mirror if I just let her affair continue. Sooner or later, I would have to kill her lover. Divorcing her and being alone seemed like a better option than killing her lover and spending the rest of my life in a prison cell, possibly trying to avoid being gang-raped in the shower, if you believe the movies. Tracy worked as a physical therapist at a local hospital. She left for work at 7 a.m. and finished at 4 p.m. I worked from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., sometimes longer, as an accountant at a small steel mill on the outskirts of town. This gave Tracy plenty of time every day for her affair, whether I knew about it or not. I used to be a happy idiot, confident in my life because of my ignorance. Now every day felt like a test. I started popping heartburn pills like candy. I always wash my dishes. I would never give you leftovers, she said one evening after I refused to have sex with her again. Always? Haven't there been times when I didn't get leftovers? Or when you maybe didn't take a long shower? She looked down and didn't answer. Damn it. Tracy giggled again when I got back into bed. I could see the smirk on her face as she thought about her last remark. I consider myself a pretty good-looking guy and in good shape for my age, but both Tracy and I know that she is much better looking than me. I knew full well that I would probably never attract a beautiful 20-year-old girl, but I'm not a troll, and I can find someone decent. I turned away from my wife and thought for a moment before falling asleep. Okay, I can't get a 20-year-old, but What's wrong with a 40-year-old? Yeah, that could work, I thought as I drifted off to sleep. My plan was simple. Tracy had several unmarried female friends, most of whom were divorced. I would have to lie a little, but considering how my wife had lied to get us into this mess, I didn't feel guilty. I needed one of her friends to agree. Allison Rosario was a beautiful, dark-haired, full-figured woman in her 40s who had been one of Tracy's closest friends for about 20 years. We didn't see each other often, but we always got along well. I could tell she was surprised when I called. After a few quick pleasantries, I got down to business. I explained to Allison that Tracy was cheating on me with a younger man, and that we had decided to open up our marriage to be honest with each other. I asked if she wanted to come with me and see how the evening ended. There was complete silence on the line. She gasped when I said Tracy was cheating on me, and I could tell she was putting all the pieces of the puzzle together in her head, which was exactly what I wanted. I was throwing my cheating girlfriend under the bus and asking one of her best friends to sleep with me. "We have to be very careful, Allison," I added in the most sincere tone. "The deal is, we don't talk about our extramarital affairs." "Wow. I'm shocked, RJ," she said. "Miss Wright Tracy was cheating on you?" "With whom? For how long?" she asked quickly. "His name is Tony Green. I believe she works with him. They've been dating for about a year, she recently told me." "She told you herself? You didn't catch her?" Allison asked. "She told me herself," I replied. "She enjoyed the sex, but she felt uncomfortable cheating on me. We talked about it and decided to open up our marriage to be honest with each other. So, you're my first," I said. "I'm flattered, RJ, but I'm still in shock that Tracy could cheat on you. Can I call her or confirm it somehow?" "I believe you can confirm her cheating, but then we won't see each other. Those are her rules." "You know I'm telling the truth about her cheating. You know I'm not a liar," I said, lying. "Yes. Tracy always said you were one of the most honest people she knew. I'm intrigued. Give me a few days to think about it. Tracy and I aren't best friends, but I don't want to hurt her." Allison couldn't see my smile. Lying turned out to be much easier than I believed. Our date on Thursday evening a week later couldn't have gone better once I had convinced Allison that Tracy had been cheating on me. She seemed as shocked as I was by this turn of events. She knew who Tracy's lover was and said she understood why my wife had chosen him for what we both considered her first romance. Allison always dressed well, and she didn't disappoint me when I picked her up at her apartment. She was wearing a tight sweater with the top 3 buttons undone, revealing her beautiful white breasts. Her stylish, tight jeans showed that she kept herself in great shape. Continuing to practice my new lying skills, I told Tracy that I had a meeting that was running late and that I would be back no later than midnight, and that she shouldn't wait up for me. Allison and I had a nice dinner, and then we went to a quiet bar to have a drink and chat. Over the next few weeks, I pretended that I had joined a bowling league on Tuesday nights and started going out with my coworkers for drinks on Thursdays. At least that's what I told Tracy. She readily agreed that I needed some time to myself, probably believing that it would give her more time for her lover. Now that my eyes were wide open, I realized that her altruism was just a cover, but what was good for the goose? Over the next few weeks, I enjoyed Allison's body several times, and I know she enjoyed mine just as much. I know she also enjoyed getting revenge on Tracy, even though they were supposedly good friends. She talked about how Tracy always talked about how important fidelity was in marriage, but then she went and did it herself. She wondered out loud if Tony was her first lover. Believe me, I believed the same thing. Despite 25 years of marriage, I apparently had no clue what was going on in a woman's mind because what happened next blew me away again. After a night of passionate sex with Allison, she told me she needed to go away for a week, but then offered me another close friend of Tracy's as a replacement. Really? I stammered, completely stunned by the offer. Of course. I know a few of Tracy's friends who would do anything to be with you, but they would never make the first move because you're Tracy's husband, and friends don't sleep with their friends' spouses. Well, except in crazy situations like this. I mean, if you were single, I know a lot of her friends would be lining up to go out with you. She giggled and winked. I can give you a few numbers, and you can do whatever you want. But there's one condition. We'll have sex without a condom, but if you still want to play with me, you have to use a condom with others. I love girls, but who knows who they've been with? This way, we won't be taking any chances. Having fun is one thing, but there's no reason to be careless or stupid. Someone thought this through. Very well, actually. My plan just got better and bigger. God bless you, Allison. There were 5 names on Allison's list. All the women were beautiful and cute. None of them were supermodels or could compete with 20-year-olds, but I wasn't looking for anything like that. I was just looking for a good sex partner to get back at my wife. I decided to go through the list alphabetically. First was Grace Hanson, a blonde in her 40s with a few extra pounds and goddess-like breasts. I gave her the same opening speech I gave Allison, and she agreed without even letting me finish. Like Allison, she agreed partly because it was a way to get back at my wife, who, as I discovered, was acting like a smug bitch around her divorced friends. She doesn't exactly hide the fact that she brags about her marriage to you, Grace said. Who would have thought that Miss Virtue had a dark side and a chance to get back at you? Hell yeah, I'm in. I decided that I would enjoy each woman for what she could give me. I wouldn't compare them, because that would be unfair to them and to me. I would treat each woman like an exquisite dish to be savored slowly for my own pleasure. All 5 other women said yes to my question about sex. I have to admit that it was an exciting time in my life, having regular sex with 6 different women. The women helped boost my fragile male ego, convincing me that Tracy's decision to leave me was probably not my fault, as she herself had said. Tracy's friends constantly told me that I was still in good shape, probably because she was living such a wonderful life, sleeping with her toy boy several times a week. Tracy didn't say a word to me about the fact that we hadn't had sex in almost 6 months, until one day she finally did. We hadn't slept in the same bed since she told me she was cheating on me, and she only tried to flirt with me once or twice shortly after she told me. I rejected her harshly, so I knew she wouldn't try again anytime soon. The near future became the distant future, until my wife remembered that we were supposed to be more than just roommates. Maybe we should go somewhere and try to rekindle our sex life, RJ. Let's go to a restaurant, maybe a club, and then come back home and have fun all night. Come to think of it, we haven't done anything in a long time. You must have big muscles in your right arm from working out. It's not my fault, Tracy. I didn't decide to bring Tony Green into our marriage, I said. You say you love me all the time, but if that were true, you would stop sleeping with Tony Green. Maybe then we could just think, about saving our marriage. We've already discussed this. I'm not ready to end my journey of self-discovery, she said. That's nonsense, Tracy, and you know it. You can't have everything. Just because I haven't pulled the trigger yet doesn't mean I won't do it someday. You can't abuse my love forever, I said. If I could get you back into our bed, I would prove to you that I'm not taking advantage of your love, she said. No, satisfying me until I pass out doesn't prove that you love me. I'm not going to share you with another man. I tell you that all the time. I don't share. I understood very well that over the past 6 months, my marriage to Tracy had turned into a cohabitation. If she noticed, she didn't say anything. At the same time, my sex life was thriving. At 47, I was having good or great sex several times a week with 6 different women. I called them my sex group, and it was like a fantasy come true. I never asked any of them if they slept with other men besides me. From the way they talked, they all knew that I was pleasing their entire group of friends. I began to enjoy all 6 of them, both emotionally and sexually. Not wanting to be a pig, I sometimes asked if my women were happy with the arrangement. They all said they wished we had started this much earlier. They all also expressed the opinion that my wife was clearly an idiot for giving another woman the opportunity to steal me away from her. It was nice to hear, though sad at the same time. If Tracy had any doubts about our current lifestyle, I believed they would surface during our week-long trip to Jacksonville, Florida. That's exactly what happened on the second day, when we spent a wonderful day at the Jacksonville Zoo and then went to an expensive restaurant and dance club. By the end of the evening, I could sense that Tracy was in a romantic mood, and when we got back to the room, she practically threw herself at me. Soon we were kissing passionately on the big bed, but when it came to the point where clothes usually come off, I stopped, got up from the bed, and interrupted the action. Tracy looked stunned, her eyes burning with passion. She tried to say something, but the words wouldn't come out. I walked over to the TV, turned it on, and sat down in an armchair to watch some mindless movie. I couldn't figure out which one. "What the hell, RJ?" Tracy shouted at me, suddenly finding her voice. I'm sorry if I led you on, Tracy. I shouldn't have done that. I apologized quietly. What? Are you confused? She muttered. No. We're on vacation, RJ. It's just you and me here. Why can't we pick up where we left off? I looked at her sadly. Because 2 days after we get back, you'll be in Tony Green's bed, if not sooner. It doesn't change anything for you, does it? I asked. She turned away. For a moment, I wondered if she felt guilty. Then she turned back to me and smiled. I decide who I give my body to and when. If you don't like it. Of course I don't like it. That's why we're not going to have sex while you're sleeping with your boy, I replied. She snorted, got out of bed, and went to the bathroom. A few minutes later, she came back, her hair combed and her clothes straightened. She posed for a second, probably so I could see what she had done, then headed for the door. I'm leaving. Don't wait for me, she snorted. I wondered, but didn't ask, if she was faithful to Tony. Considering she didn't seem to hesitate before leaving, I had my answer. I wondered if Tony knew she was doing to him what she had done to me. In any case, I wasn't going to tell him. I waved at her broadly, but didn't respond. She snorted again and slammed the door behind her. I looked at my watch and saw that she had been gone for 2.5 hours when she quietly entered the room. She undressed, went into the bathroom, and took a quick shower. I continued to pretend to be asleep, turning away from her as she quietly climbed into bed. Thanks for taking a shower, I said quietly after a minute. In the morning, after I took a shower, she took a longer shower. We went down to the hotel for breakfast. You use the same stupid excuses when you leave Tony. Or did you not tell him the same thing you told me? Considering that it didn't work on me, I trust you're smart enough not to tell him, I said. She grimaced as she chewed her food. She continued to stare at me for several long seconds, and I watched as various emotions flashed across her face. She decided to remain silent. The rest of the week passed without incident. We resumed our friendly, albeit somewhat strained, relationship for the remainder of the vacation, although she stopped whispering, "I love you," as she had done several times during the first 2 days. I let the situation develop for another 2 months after the vacation before deciding to end my sham marriage. By that point, Tracy had been sleeping with her lover for over 2 years. Even if she had left him that day, I couldn't have forgiven her for spending 2 years with another man, no matter how many times she told me she loved me. She probably knew it was inevitable. I wondered absent-mindedly if she had slept with her lover that night as I went downstairs after changing out of my work clothes. A few minutes later, she set dinner on the table. I waited until Tracy had eaten half of her dinner, then dropped the bomb, using the same phrase she had used when she confessed her infidelity to me. I've been seeing Allison Rosario for over a year. I slipped the phrase into a conversation about what movie we were going to watch that night. Wait, what? She asked quietly after a few seconds. I said I've been dating Allison Rosario for over a year. I saw her face turn pale, then red. I waited. You bastard. I stopped her with my hand and continued. And Grace Hanson, Barbie Parker, Connie Lewis, Shay Turner, and Nancy Sweeten. I know I was grinning like a smug bastard. My wife's mouth fell open in shock, and she stared at me. She made a strangled sound, then coughed to clear her throat. How could you do this to me? They're all my friends, she hissed. I kept smiling at her, and she kept staring at me for several long seconds. Hello. I'm a man married to a woman who has been sleeping with a young guy from her office for over 2 years. Because she's searching for herself or some other nonsense. She looked as if I had just hit her, as if she couldn't believe what I was saying. You satisfied my friends to get back at me? She asked, barely audibly. Something like that, I replied. At first it was revenge on Allison, but then when the others joined in, it became something bigger. Call it revenge and self-discovery if you want. Tracy seemed to deflate before my eyes. I could see her brain working overtime. You told my friends about my relationship with Tony? How could you do that to me and to yourself? You made yourself look bad, she said. Yes, I did. And I also made you look like a slut. I told your friends that after you cheated on me for a year, we decided to open up our marriage to be honest with each other. All your friends agreed to this plan. Once they got over the shock of your behavior, I explained. You lied to them. We never opened up our marriage, she yelled at me. Guess who I learned that from? Turns out I'm pretty good at it, although I have to admit that after a while I confessed to everyone because I felt guilty. But considering that you were cheating on me, all your friends decided that I was entitled to have affairs too, and they all decided that we should continue this game. Wow, none of my so-called friends betrayed you. For a year. I guess you were good enough for them. Wait a minute. So that's why you didn't make love to me? For a whole year, she shouted. Actually, if you remember, I haven't touched you since you told me about your affair. I didn't start looking for an affair for a year after you. I gave you every chance to end yours, but you kept saying you weren't ready. I don't know if it would have mattered if you had left him after a year of fun, but after 2 years? No way. Besides, I don't want to lose my women. This discovery of myself, it's really great, I insisted. She stopped eating and stared at me. So why are you telling me this now, after a year of this? She growled. Are you getting revenge on me? Maybe, but that's not why I'm telling you. I'm telling you because I've decided to end this joke called marriage. I'm tired of living with a roommate who claims to love me, but continues to cheat on me with another man. When did you stop respecting me? Before you stopped loving me, or after? I saw the anger building in her. Anticipating her next comment, I raised my hand and continued speaking. Tomorrow afternoon, the divorce papers will be delivered to your home. If you're not there because you're sleeping with your lover, the courier will go to his apartment. If that doesn't work, the papers will be delivered to the hospital the next morning. So it's up to you how bad you want to look. I'm trying to be respectful. After all, we had a good marriage, and you gave me 2 wonderful children. She exhaled loudly. I know you don't believe me, but I still love you, RJ. I won't be with Tony forever, and then we can go back to our old life, she said. I was proud of myself for not laughing in her face. She could see I didn't believe her. I'll be home tomorrow afternoon. Thanks for believing in me, she said quietly as I got up and left. A week after I filed for divorce, my mother-in-law called. Tracy's mother and I had always gotten along well, and after Tracy's father died of a heart attack 3 years ago, we became even closer. She still lived in her house about an hour away, and we usually visited her at least once a month. I usually took my tools with me and did the odd jobs around the house that my father-in-law always did. "Robert, I'm very disappointed in you," she said when I answered the phone. "I know that every marriage has its difficulties and arguments, but you can't just walk out after 25 years of marriage." From the first minute, I knew Meredith was incredibly angry with me. She and my parents were the only ones who called me by my first name, and only when they were angry with me. The fact that she was angry with me told me that Tracy was trying to soften the reason I had filed for divorce. Meredith continued lecturing me for a couple more minutes until I lost my temper and interrupted her tirade somewhere between Adam and Eve and Harry and Bess Truman. "Mom! Mom! What reason did she give you for the divorce?" I interrupted her. "She said you were jealous of her co-worker. Come on, Robert. She's a grown woman. She's entitled to male friends just as she's entitled to female friends. We live in the 21st century, for crying out loud." After a minute, I stopped listening and waited for her to catch her breath before continuing the conversation. "Did she mention that she had been romantically involved with this friend for the past 2 years?" I asked. I heard Meredith gasp, then fall silent. The silence lasted about 30 seconds, and for a moment I believed she had passed out on the other end of the line, which, despite the silence, was still active. "You can't be serious, Robert. Tracy loves you with all her heart and would never do that to you," she blurted out. "She admitted it herself, Mom. She admitted that she's been sleeping with some young guy for over a year. And from the sound of it, the sex was so good that she had no intention of stopping anytime soon. Another year has passed, and according to her, they're still seeing each other several times a week. She lied to me for over a year and hasn't respected me for over 2 years. You call sleeping with another man love? I certainly don't," I said. I don't know what to say, Robert," Meredith replied, her voice trembling. "Her father and I certainly didn't raise her that way. I don't know what to say to you, except that I'm very sorry she did this, and I'm terribly ashamed." "At least one of you is sorry. She certainly isn't," I muttered. 20 minutes after I hung up, Tracy called me in a rage. Hurls insults at me that I've never heard before. She asks how I could expose her to her mother. "What happens in our marriage is private and should stay between us," she yells into the phone. "Except it didn't happen in our marriage. You cheated on me, then lied to your mother. I just told her the truth after she accused me of being unreasonable because of your friendship with another man. You called having sex with another man friendship? Seriously, Tracy? I believe that after everything you've been through over the last couple of years, you could come up with something better." I heard her start to cry on the phone. "She called me a whore. A whore. She said she was glad my father wasn't alive to see this. It would have killed him." "That didn't help me either, Tracy," I said indifferently before hanging up. Tracy's lawyer tried to arrange counseling for her, but when my lawyer told the judge that my wife had repeatedly told me she had no intention of breaking up with her lover, the judge, to put it mildly, did not look impressed. "Is that true, Mrs. Lyons? And remember, you are in court, and even though you are not under oath, lying in my presence will be considered perjury," the judge said sternly. She turned to her lawyer, her mouth open in shock, I think, and they leaned toward each other for a quick, quiet conversation. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw her lawyer nod several times. "Yes, Your Honor," she croaked. "But that's—" She fell silent immediately when the judge raised his eyebrows in what I took to be a rebuke. "Consultation denied. Let's not take up any more of Mr. Lyons' time," the judge said sternly. "I shouldn't have said anything," Tracy muttered, but loud enough for me to hear. "I had a conscience because I loved him. If I hadn't said anything, I'd still be married." None of our children wanted to believe that Tracy had cheated on me. They were both surprised when I told them what she had confessed to me. "Oh, damn. In that case," our daughter muttered on the phone during our conference call the day after I filed for divorce. "So?" Is there a chance you'll get back together? Our son asked. You were married for a quarter of a century. That deserves a few points toward forgiveness, right? She slept with this guy for over 2 years, I replied. She confessed after a year of dating. I tried for over a year to get her to stop, but apparently this young guy makes her feel sexy and young. She wants to have some fun. I can't understand why she thought I wouldn't mind. We always agreed that cheating was the end of the relationship, but somewhere along the way, she decided that the rules no longer applied to her. You always gave her everything she asked for, Dad, my son remarked. Maybe she decided that you would give in on this too eventually. Sounds like it. But in this case, she was wrong. Thanks in large part to my women, my life turned out much better than it would have if I had allowed Tracy to continue thinking she was the boss. A year after the divorce was final, I was still dating 4 of the 6, and the other 2 had found other men. We parted as friends, and I completely understood and respected their decision to stay with one man, especially after my ex-wife was unable to do so. The divorce meant that I could spend more time with each of my women. We didn't have to worry about where we were going or who would see us together. Plus, on weekends, my girlfriend could spend the whole night at my place, and we didn't have to keep track of time, so to speak. After the 3rd of my 6 women left me for another man, I realized I had an important decision to make. I had to decide if one of the 3 women left could be the one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, or if I needed to move on and let all the women move on too. I decided we all needed to talk, so I called a meeting at my place. I ordered a full dinner from my favorite Italian restaurant and several bottles of good Italian wine. I explained to each of the women why I had called the meeting so that no one would be caught off guard. We were all friends, so I expected the evening to be fun at the very least. Allison, Grace, and Shay arrived. Allison and Grace were divorced, and Shay was a widow who would have divorced her cheating husband if he hadn't died in a car accident when he veered off the road at high speed while his mistress was pleasuring him. We had just started on the appetizers when Grace got straight to the point. What if we all decide that none of us wants to go that far with you? She asked sarcastically. There was silence at the table for 5 seconds, and then all the women burst out laughing. Gotcha! They shouted in unison. In the end, we decided that our future would be decided by rock, paper, scissors. Just kidding. The 3 women kicked me out of the room, and as I later learned, they had a very serious discussion about which one of them would be the first to find out if it was me. Perhaps because of the circumstances of her husband's death, Shay seemed the most traumatized of all my women. Aside from sex, emotional intimacy with Shay developed slowly throughout the time we were sexual partners. In particular, she seemed to have serious trust issues, which I could understand. She told me that was one of the reasons she liked our household. She was always impressed by what Tracy said about me, and given that 6 friends were involved, she didn't believe I would dare do anything too scandalous. She admitted that she was afraid of a full-fledged relationship, which she hadn't had in the 5 years since her husband's death. I'm not sure I can go through that again, RJ. If you decide I'm not the one, tell me first. Don't cheat on me. Don't hide anything from me, she begged me. Same for you, Shay. My ex really damaged my ability to trust someone with my heart. It wasn't perfect, but somehow our 2 wounded souls became one, so to speak. Allison and Grace seemed genuinely happy for us, although that didn't stop them from complaining that they didn't get to spend any time alone with me. I told them both that I would always have a special place in my heart for them, just as I did for the other 3 women. They all helped me get through the most difficult period of my life. I will be forever grateful to them. The wedding a year later was modest, attended only by a few select relatives and friends. Although I never asked about their mother, my children kept me informed about what was going on in her life. Tracy decided to leave the house after the divorce, giving me more money as compensation. 6 months after the divorce was final, she moved in with her young lover, fulfilling the threat she had made 2 years earlier. I believe that my children were more upset about this than I was at the time. Surprisingly, this cohabitation did not last long, because about 18 months later, Tony left my house and Tracy's life. According to my children, the breakup was amicable. Tony wanted to have his children, and Tracy, who was already in her 50s, did not want to have children with him. According to my daughter, Tracy dated several younger men over the next year, until menopause finally slowed her libido. She explained to my daughter that she chose younger men because she knew that men her age were only good for one night, and she was used to having 2 or 3 different men at the same time with Tony. "Sue me, I like sex, I love sex," she told Karen. "That's too much information, Mom. Way too much," my daughter replied. Although I considered getting revenge on Tony Green, I never did, not wanting to end up in jail because of that jerk. However, my son supported me. He was still single when Tony finally got married, and he made it his goal to seduce the young woman Tony married. It took him almost 6 months to achieve his goal, but when he finally did, he and Mrs. Green had sex several times a week for about 6 months, until Derek finally sent Tony an anonymous message with the video attached. I know it was childish, but I still giggled like crazy as I watched my son press the send button on his phone while we sat on the couch in his apartment drinking beer. "She was really good in bed, Dad, but I'm glad I helped you get rid of that bastard. Did you think the dish was cold enough?" "Ice cold, Derek. Ice cold," I replied.